Hey, what's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be about the latest album to be released by Calvin Harris, returning with a sequel to his critically acclaimed and successful album entitled Funk Wave Bounces. For those who are not familiar, Harris is a powerhouse producer, particularly in the realm of pop EDM. He's got an accessible sound that's easy to pick up and enjoy and digest. He initially hit my radar with the release of his third studio album entitled 18 Months. The first iteration of Funk Wave Bounces was released back in 2017, and I genuinely enjoyed it at the time. I'm sure many would agree with me when I say this. What Harris did on the song Slide, the opening track for that album, was special, pure lightning in a bottle, and pop music executed possibly at the highest level at that time. I'm not sure what led to the inception of the sequel for the first iteration, but I definitely scratched my head when I heard its formal announcement, at least earlier this year. I didn't think that Volume 1 really needed a sequel, and I found myself wondering what more Calvin Harris could possibly bring to the table with a second album in this kind of style. But I do understand the first album, as I hinted at, was branded as Volume 1, so it was inevitable, I guess, that Harris would release a follow-up of sorts. I think I'll save my final thoughts for the end. I'm just going to get into it. Funk Wave Bounces Volume 2 is a total of 14 tracks, sitting at a runtime of about 45 minutes. As always, I'm going to be offering my thoughts and highlights track by track, naturally starting with the first here entitled Intro, aptly titled track. It's very brief. It feels a lot like the intro to a song, much like the title suggests, of course. It feels like the doors to the album are being opened for the listener. We're greeted with synth strings, soft keyboard elements, chimes, fun percussive elements, and subtle bass guitar. This segues nicely into track 2 entitled New Money featuring 21 Savage. This is a smooth funk track featuring constant piano chords, glittery keyboard, syncopated bass guitar, and a smooth guitar solo towards the later half of the song. I love how the drums sound. There's excellent usage of samples and percussion choice here. The reverb on the drum mix in particular is perfect and creates a beautiful sense of space for the overall mix. Vocally, 21's feature is exactly what you would expect. It's nothing crazy, passable flows and lyricism, and thematically it's a simple song as 21 raps about his lavish lifestyle and describes his gradual come-up. It's bragging done in a way that feels warranted and genuine. Track 3 was Potion featuring Dua Lipa and Young Thug. This was the lead single for the album, the titular track, of course, and we're hit with a tasty guitar tone playing at a solid melody at the intro with soft percussive accompaniment in the background. Lipa's verse kicks in after with a simple pop beat in the background driving the song. We've got rhythm guitar and bass guitar in the background as well. Thug's verse follows immediately after she opens up the song. His vocal performance consists of a blend of rapping and singing. He's got fun ad-libs sprinkled throughout his performance. I usually enjoy Dua Lipa's vocals, but it feels like she really phoned it in with this feature. I'm not sure how much of that was due to the producers or engineers' choices, because I know she can bring very strong and solid vocals to the table, but I've got to say it's a bit underwhelming in terms of vocal chemistry here, at least. Thug's vocals on this funky instrumental was the highlight for me. I definitely have to praise Harris's work with the instrumental. The color palette of sound is warm and flavorful. I can tell the mix was handled with lots of care. There's many subtle details that come together to create what I consider a strong instrumental. And thematically, both vocalists describe fun nights out with a special person and that chemistry that can grow there. Lipa highlights this in the chorus as she sings Late Night Conversations, Electric Emotions, sprinkled with a little bit of sex, and It's a Potion. With that, we transition into track 4 entitled Woman of the Year, featuring Stefflon Don, Chloe, and Coi Leray. This track is a smooth funk tune with pop flair to it. The instrumental consists of a crunchy bass guitar, subtle layered elements to the steady beat, and flavorful rhythm guitar with a phased taste to it. The vocal chemistry on this song is solid, as all vocalists bounce off of each other pretty well. I like the blend of rapping and singing. The vocals also mesh decently with the instrumental. Stefflon handles the hook, while Chloe and Coi Leray hold their own with their own respective verses. I enjoy all of their vocal performances. They're complemented by the strong instrumental. And thematically, the vocalists paint a vivid picture as they describe how they feel to have earned their success. They speak from a place of confidence, and I enjoy the way that it's presented to the listener on the song. I'd say this track is a fun highlight for the album so far. What follows is track number 5, entitled Obsessed, featuring Charlie Puth and Shensi. I love how bright this instrumental feels. It's a laid-back funk tune featuring constant piano chords, phased rhythm guitar, steady funk drums, and strings making sporadic appearances throughout the song. The vocal melodies are very catchy here, and I must admit I'm not a fan of Charlie Puth's vocals. The performances I've heard from him tend to be bland, very vanilla. He does sing some deeper tones on the song towards the second verse, which do sound more interesting than his usual falsetto delivery that I'm very used to. This is also my first time listening to Shensi's vocals, and I would say she sounds decent on the song. I don't think the vocal chemistry between them is the strongest, but I do think that her voice is a pleasant tonal change for the listener to have a break from Puth's vocals. He's got more of a presence here on the song. Her vocals and delivery definitely steal the show for me, though. Thematically, the song feels like a duet. Puth sings from the perspective of a guy that's hopelessly after a woman who doesn't even know that he exists. And Shensi sings from that woman's perspective, making it clear to the listener that she's way out of this dude's league. Not only that, but she's so preoccupied with her own life and business that she doesn't have time for guys like Puth. And it's hilarious to think about, since she's indirectly responding to Puth's pleas, but I digress, it's an okay tune. Track number 6 is entitled New to You, featuring Normani, Tinashe, and Offset. A luscious string section greets the listener at the intro, setting a different tone for the album here. Soon the drum groove and funky bass join the mix, and I enjoy how the lushy strings then divide into separate sections, including an ostinato that's holding down pedal tones, and the counter melody that's played by violins in the background. Normani's voice is the first that we hear on the song as she handles the main hook and brings solid vocals to the table. I think the staccato performance the staccato performance on her vocals might be the weakest part of the performance for me, though. Tinashe follows up with her first verse, singing in a simple and deeper delivery, and after another chorus, Offset joins the mix. He brings a solid rap performance to the song. I enjoy his laid-back vocal delivery, and his flows work well with the groove of the song. Finally, Tinashe follows this up with a second verse of hers. I think this is the most interesting section of the song, as it almost feels like a bridge. The chord progression doesn't change at all. I enjoy the flair that she brings here, as her vocals and new vocal melodies float on the instrumental beautifully. Very wispy and soft in delivery. And thematically, it feels like a description of the kind of tension that can fester between two lovers that just aren't on the same page. Tinashe and Normani describe a perspective that knows the other party will inevitably fall for them, and describe the bond with a sense of urgency. If you don't act right in a timely manner, you just might miss out on a special person and bond. Offset, on the other hand, presents the other perspective, a more hesitant lover that's not so keen on making a fool of themselves. I have to admit I like the efforts at presenting a cohesive theme for the song, and I'd say it's another solid highlight for the album. Track 7 is entitled Ready or Not, featuring Busta Rhymes. This is an interesting tune. The instrumental features ringing keyboard chords, subtle piano backing, funky bass line, and boom-bap flavored drums. Subtle strings make appearances throughout the song as well. It's a genuinely beautiful instrumental. And Busta Rhymes brings his usual chopper-style cadence and flows to the song, bringing plenty of energy and style to the song. It's an unexpected collaboration for me to kind of see both of these artists working together, and I'd say the product is an equally interesting song. Thematically, Busta glosses over different scenes and situations, mostly providing hype flows for the listener to loosely follow along. There's no solid theme for the song, though. Track 8, Stay With Me, featuring Justin Timberlake, Halsey, and Pharrell Williams, kicks the album into a new gear as Halsey opens the song up with an upbeat staccato hook, which then leads into the faster drum groove. There's a subtle bass line in the background giving the song its pulse. The fast rhythm, guitar, and bass line are the glue of the song, and the song does have a certain disco kind of flair to it. I do enjoy that, creating a groovy foundation for all of the vocalists. Soon, Justin Timberlake joins the mix, bringing passable vocals to the song. They are solid, but they are passable. Pharrell follows afterwards, and I've got to admit the chemistry between these two is solid. Halsey's vocals do fall a bit short in terms of tone when compared to Timberlake and Williams, which I understand as the latter vocalists are more experienced, but I do like how her verse feels like a brief breather in the song. Thematically, it's a simple one as the vocalists describe a fun and vibrant night out. They depict a vivid scene on the dance floor filled with infectious and inviting energy. This feels like a song that you'll hear at weddings throughout the rest of 2022. That's just the energy that I get from it. And track 9 is part 2 to the exact same song, featuring the same vocalists. The instrumental changes here as a fast shaker now enters the mix, and the vocal melodies do shift. The song has the same vibe as part 1, featuring notable sonic differences, and the main chord progression is exactly the same. That doesn't change. There's a big string melody that's echoed by the vocalists here that is particularly beautiful. I'd say the vocal performances are stronger here than they are in part 1 as well. Thematically, this song is also a follow-up to the previous song. It feels like fuel for the audience to keep on dancing and grooving, presenting the listener with incentive to continue moving with emotions and emotions. Track 10 is entitled Somebody Else, featuring Georgia Smith and Lil Durk. This instrumental is very warm and sensual with its tasty guitar tones, slapped bass guitar, and psychedelic flavored chords in the background. It's also slower tempo. Smith's vocals are warm and soft, sounding wonderful on this instrumental. And Durk being featured on the song struck me as an odd choice, but I've got to admit his vocals sound great on the song. He blends rapping and singing in a way that complements the instrumental, and in turn, the instrumental elevates his performance. It's interesting vocal chemistry, and I do enjoy it. Thematically, it's a sad song filled with pain. Both vocalists describe what it feels like to be falling out of love. They touch on their individual experiences and express their confusion about the overall situation. I like their approach to the lyricism as the pain is further elevated in that sense, and it does feel genuine. I'd say this is another highlight for the album. Track 11, entitled Nothing More to Say, featuring Black, aka Six Lack as most people think it's pronounced, and Donae'o. This intro feels like the mix is being squeezed out of a tiny speaker, and the filter eases out quickly as the drums enter the mix. And Black accompanies the groove, bringing his usual solid vocal delivery to the song. The background accompaniment consists of groovy, offbeat guitar plucks, it's kind of twangy, and rich piano chords. The drums are layered well, full of energy and rhythm. Donae'o's verse is nice, bringing a ton of energy to the song here. And lyrically, Black handles most of the song as he describes a wholesome love for a partner, one where you want to get rid of all their troubles and you want to protect their peace. It's described beautifully by him with his word choice and lyricism. Donae'o's verse is meant to give the listener a hyped-up hook to dance along to. There's not much lyricism there, so it feels effective in that sense when you take its functionality into consideration. This leads into track 12, entitled Live My Best Life, featuring Snoop Dogg and Latto. The soft piano melody at the intro is paired with a subtle synth keyboard. The drums are laid back, with funky bass guitar and soft, airy synth pads in the background. Snoop's presence on the song is nice, but I do not like his vocal melodies on the song. I don't know if it's the timbre of his voice or the fact that he's singing along with the piano, like the exact same notes are being played by the piano in the background. The result sounds strange and disjointed. Latto does something similar in terms of vocalizing that melody, but only briefly. She raps for the majority of her verse, which I believe was a wiser decision. I don't consider Snoop to be the strongest of singers, so I'm wondering why the decision was made to have him sing on this song. He doesn't rap here at all. Thematically, both vocalists speak on a utopian lifestyle that they've gradually created for themselves, and I'd say this theme fits the laid-back instrumental nicely. Track 13 is entitled Lean On Me, featuring Swae Lee. This is a very bright tune with its strummed acoustic guitar chords and soft synth pads in the background. The drums are slow and steady with a pop taste to them. It's a strong foundation for Swae's vocals as he genuinely floats along with the song. I like the delay and reverb thrown on his voice as the result meshes very well with the instrumental. I also love the tasty electric guitar solo that we hear in the second half of the song. Lee provides subtle vocalizations in the background, and I've got to say it's a beautiful blend of timbres between his voice and the guitar. Thematically, Lee sings of a busy rock star lifestyle during the summertime, depicting unique scenes with the summer lover. The listener is presented with a very vivid picture. And with that, we transition into the closing track 14, entitled Day One, featuring Pharrell Williams and Pusha T. I like the intro to the song as the funky synth bass and drums gradually bleed into the mix, with a soft and simple piano ostinato easing the listener into the song. Pharrell belts out decent falsetto vocals on his main verse, and I enjoy his vocal melodies here. However, I do not like the odd chromatic modulations that we hear in the main hook. It sounds weird and it leaves a strange taste in my mouth. Stylistically, it makes sense as the tonality moves in a lazy and relaxed manner, which echoes the overall energy of the song. I just don't think it was done effectively here because the vocal melodies, they're changing tonality in a way that it just sounds strange. It doesn't work for me. Pusha joins the mix after the first chorus. His rapping is as solid as you would expect it to be, bringing nice flows and wordplay to the song. Pharrell hits us with that chorus one more time, and the song fades out immediately after that. Thematically, it's a tune filled with nostalgia as both vocalists look back on their teenage years, their youth, providing specific images as if they were screenshots of their early young adulthood. I'm sure it'll conjure up memories for some listeners like myself. Overall, I think this was an okay album. My fears were confirmed after 2 full listens of the project, as it was clear to me that the magic of the original album couldn't possibly be recreated. There are some strong tunes here, and the album presents a mostly new roster of vocalists for the features, although there are a few that were featured on the first iteration. However, this album is a lot more of the same energy as its predecessor. Volume 2 is a few tracks longer than Volume 1. I think Volume 1 is about 10 songs long. So we've got a lot of fluff here, to be honest. The low points are songs that I was very tempted to skip. There are songs that are pleasant as background music at best. Now, it should come as no surprise that stylistically the album would be similar to the first, since it's branded very similarly in a what you see is what you get type of manner. I think my expectations were simply too high. In my mind, I thought Calvin Harris would expand on his take on this fusion of pop and funk music, maybe even explore different aspects of the genres, subgenres, whatever, what have you. And I do want to clarify, I do like Calvin Harris. I think his work on his side project, Love Regenerator, is some of the most captivating and effective dance music to be released in the mainstream over what I would say the last 2 years. I just wish he would have brought some of that innovative energy to this album, and as a result, it just feels lacking. When it comes to funk wave bounces, I'll take the first installment over the second one any day. No questions asked, no competition there. The first just featured many more interesting timbres and color palettes, more interesting vocalists, and it just felt like something special. But unfortunately, Volume 2 simply falls short for me. But if you want to give this album a listen, it is fun. There are some songs that I can find myself revisiting, but when I compare it to Volume 1, there's just no comparison there. But yeah, if you've sat here and you've listened to me talk about Calvin Harris and Funk Wave Bounces Volume 2, I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to do so. And if you've got music that you're listening to, new stuff that's coming out that you really want to share with somebody, you can always send that my way. And if you make music or you write music and you really want some constructive criticism or you just want to share it with somebody, you can certainly slide that my way and I will take the time to listen to it. And if you want some feedback, I'm always happy to provide that. And with all that being said, I hope you're having a very wonderful day. Peace.